one of the things that I give to all the founders is when I'm kind of courting them, like in this sourcing process, is I give them homework. I'm like, all right, I've got this awesome partnership through Alabama Power Southern Company. We want to be able to get you a pilot, a customer, something out of that process. What does that look like? Put it together for me. Make it real. Then I can go to them and say, like, is this something that we can even do? And then we can craft that over the course of the 13 weeks. And then by the end of the 13 weeks, you might have a multi-million-dollar, large scale utility company as a customer.
Yeah.
Maybe even a first customer.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Slow Smoke Business Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, you notice that we've got a little something different going this time. I've got my friend Matt Jaeh here. Hello, Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And this is our first in-person episode ever. And so I've always wanted to do this. And Matt is a very good guinea pig, and so he agreed to be here. And we're cooking some fun stuff today. We're actually going to get to eat it. So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
One of my favorite cuts of meat to say, the picanha. The picanha. Matt, have you ever had a picanha before?
Oh, I probably have, but
okay. I'm looking.
I don't know if I've ever made one myself.
So my friends at the butcher shop here turned me on to this recently, and it was a total winner.
It looks good.
Yeah, it's kind of like I've never mastered brisket. I'm saying that publicly here in the United States. Everybody in the world can make fun of me. I've never mastered brisket, but I can definitely master this. You slow smoke it for a couple of hours. See, brisket, you got to go forever, right? And we're going to let this bad boy rest for a couple minutes, and then we'll dive into it. But you slice this in. We've got it at, I think, a nice medium rare. At least that was the intent, right? And we'll get into that. But before we do, let's get into this right here, Matt. Okay. You're not opposed to a drink on the internet, are you?
No.
Okay.
Not at all, man. You know me.
Matt has just recently taken on a role as the managing director of Techstars here in Alabama. Now, Matt's background, he's my co-founder at ProctorU. Cheers. Lifelong friend. Have known Matt since the 4th grade.
That's right.
Right. He was the guy that I would always drag into stuff when the tech would get over my head, quite frankly. And we clanged glasses, but we didn't drink. That's not.
Yeah,
that doesn't feel right. There you go.
There we go.
So I got to learn how to drink with a microphone on.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's
so
solid.
Techstars, Alabama. You left Measure Learning, ProctorU a couple years ago, and kind of bounced around and did a bunch of things and ended up at Techstars. So tell us how you got there.
Yeah. So, when we had that great exit in 2020, I
the
just
great
felt
exit. Is that what we're going to call it?
the great exit. Yes. Amongst a lot of things that happened, the great exit. But when that happened, I really felt the need to give back. As you know, we were both just so focused on executing, growing the business, and just dealing with everything that was going on. There was so much of the Birmingham startup ecosystem that was happening like all around. And I just was like, man, I really didn't give anything to that, quite honestly. And I felt bad. And I was like, I really want to take some time out and help some folks. Also, I wanted to spend a lot more time with my family. I realized that I had sacrificed quite a bit. And everybody knows we all sacrifice a lot of things, but I did sacrifice some time with my family. And so I didn't want to just jump into another startup, but I was really bought into that. You know what? In this time, I've got a 5-year-old and now a 12-year-old.
That's throwing me for a loop.
Yeah. And with that time with Kellen, man, like, you know this too. I mean, we were just grinding,
blowing and
just
going,
crazy busy. And so, I was there for the birthdays and the big occasions, but man, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't like really there. I was like on my phone. I was worrying about something burning down.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, somebody said something to me the other day. They were like, what is that like? And I referred to it as building a tech company in a competitive space is a total war.
Yeah.
It is a total war. It is all consuming, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, crisis after crisis. The good times really don't feel that good, and the bad times feel like the weight of the world. It is a total war.
That's right. It is a long game, and it is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
You know, it's so funny. That's another thing that reminds me. I see a lot of founders, they get so excited. I made my first big raise. I'm like, that's awesome. You just showed up at the starting line.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
You just like showed up to the race. All right. You know, you made your way to the start line. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, I just felt this need to give back. And so I started to work with my local city, helping with economic development through the Commercial Development Authority for the city of Pelham. I reached out to Drew, who was the CEO of Innovation Depot at the time, and he said, hey, you know, we've got this accelerator program with Innovation Depot here called Velocity, and we have Voltage, which is almost like a pre-accelerator program. And so I worked as an entrepreneur in residence for those, and I started to work with Alabama Launchpad, which is through the EDPA, which led me to Techstars. And so I think somebody from the EDPA introduced or just told Nate Schmidt, who was the director of Techstars at the time, and he called me in, and I walked into the Techstars office, and on the wall of the Techstars office, it says #GiveFirst.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, holy crap, this is like a sign. And then when I started to dive into what Techstars is all about, it's truly about giving first with zero expectation of return. And that's exactly what I've been wanting to do and what I've been doing. And they're all about founder first. But when I first joined, you know, it was a hashtag on the wall. We had a lot of things on our walls, right?
Yeah.
Like, we lived most of them.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, as you get bigger, you lose sight of some of that. But
mantras aren't, I don't think they're labels that tell you where you are. They're things you try to live up to.
That's right. That's right. And so when I dove into this cohort of 10 extremely talented startups and started to work with these founders, man, I saw what both Nate and Brooke, she is now the CEO of Innovation Depot. She's doing a great job, by the way.
Innovation Depot, a big Alabama-based incubator.
Incubator.
Probably the best in
That's
Alabama,
right.
I would say.
It is like the crown jewel of, I would say, of Alabama.
In an old Sears building, which
That's
is
right.
It's really cool.
That's right. And when I saw both of them and how they put so much passion, love, and attention to detail into just those founders for those 13 weeks, I fell in love with that. I was like, this is awesome. This is really, really cool. And so at the end of that in December, Nate was like, hey, you know what? I'm being promoted. I'm going to become the general manager of the East and head of product for Techstars. I saw what you guys did with my cohort, and I really appreciated the work that you did. I think you would be a great fit to take over the program.
Wow.
So I encourage you to apply.
Wow.
And so I was like, yeah, heck
Okay,
yeah. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And so it was like, I hate to say no brainer, but it was a no brainer. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
So Techstars is like, there's multiple Techstars. It's in multiple cities, and I don't think I've fully understood how they all are interconnected.
Yeah.
So like if Techstars Atlanta has like a big exit, does that do anything to Techstars in Alabama, or is everybody kind of on their own island?
It does. So first off, Techstars is the largest pre-seed, early stage investment, like venture capitalist company in the world. It is.
Really?
It is the largest one.
So it's looked at as like a venture capital firm.
It is a venture capital firm. It is a venture capital firm.
Okay. Now that's starting to make sense.
And so we operate in 14 different countries. We have 41 different cities, and we have over 60 programs, like all over the world. So Birmingham,
60 different. So it's in 60 different cities.
Well, it's some cities have multiple programs. So, like for example, you're talking about Atlanta. They have 2 different programs through 2 different sponsors. They have one that is by the city, that is like a social impact type focus, and they have another one by their sponsor, Cox Communications. And so here in Birmingham, we are Alabama Energy Tech Accelerator, and our sponsor is Alabama Power Southern Company. And so they help define our thesis and our focus. So I'm looking for 12 of the best and brightest energy tech, climate tech, sustainability, and customer experience companies. And I bring them to Birmingham for 13 weeks. They come from all over the world. And so for that first month, we give them mentors. We call it mentor madness, and it's a lot. It's a lot of mentors. So they get about anywhere between 6 to 10 mentors that they
What?
work with.
6 to 10 mentors?
It's a
How does
lot.
that work?
It's a lot. So we'll go into that. So 6 to 10 mentors, and then they get programming. So what we do ahead of time is we talk to them. We go through this kind of like process, right? Where we talk to the companies, we talk to the founders, and we find out what they need, and we try to tailor
Right.
their experience to what they need so that they get the most bang for their buck. So that first month is about the programming, the mentors. The second month, it's a little less programming, more business execution. So we set a really high level of like expectation for these founders to work really, really hard, like focus solely, go all in on your business for 13 weeks, super hard, right? And so they are executing second month. Third month, they're still executing hard, but we're preparing them for demo day. And if you haven't seen demo day, it is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
We invite all of the investors.
I'm invited.
You're definitely invited.
I want to come. I want to check
You're
it
invited
out.
for sure. I got front row seat for you.
Nice.
So we bring in the entire community. We bring investors, potential customers, and we pack out a place. We packed out Red Mountain Theater. Great venue, by the way.
Okay.
I don't know if you've
I've
been
there. Yeah.
It is a fantastic venue. Keith is such a great host, and like, yeah, we packed that place out, and we're going to do it again this year.
Wow.
And so we prep them for demo day, and then once they complete demo day, they don't just go off into the world and do great things. We take care of them through that entire process. So we are helping them source more investors. We still maintain their connections. We still offer them programming. We connect them with all of our portfolio companies throughout our entire network and all of our contacts. So it is like truly Techstars for life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible. And I think so you bring them through that process, and then do you sort of release them to the wild after demo day, or do they sort of
they go back to the cities and countries that they came from
push them out of the nest?
But you know what? There's a sizable material group of them that actually stay in Birmingham.
That's excellent.
And we like that.
Yeah, we do. Well, so if you think back to where we were when we started ProctorU, this is like 08, 09, you moved to Birmingham in 10? The end of 10?
Yeah, end of 10.
End of 10, yeah. And so not a great entrepreneurial scene, right?
No,
Just really not. And I mean, there were people doing great things, and but they were scattered and they weren't connected.
Yep.
And it's so much harder. Like you think about like how do we find? I mean, we spent the first couple of years like without a lot of really good mentors,
right?
Trying to find good people, and it's I think you could look that our business suffered because of that, because we didn't have people that had been there and were willing to share their experiences. And I talk about that a lot. I mean, you really got to be careful who you listen to.
Yes.
Yes. You got to be really, because I mean, I can think of a million. That's probably a whole nother podcast episode, but I can think of a million examples of us being led in a wrong direction by some advice that we got that was either self-serving by the person that gave it to the us, or we didn't have the experience to sort of zoom out and look at what that person has accomplished in their career,
right?
And whether or not we really wanted to emulate where they were going. It's a challenge. I'm going to get the meat and get sawing on this, by the way. I'm going to get the whiskey out of the way so we don't break this decanter. It's a challenge to find a good mentor. Look at that.
Man, that looks good.
Look at that. Look at these fancy plastic plates that my wife has. Isn't that something?
Hey, man. These look awesome.
So, all right. This is putting me out there on the internet, right? Because I'm about to saw into this meat, which I intend to
look at that, man. That's tender.
I got high hopes.
Against the grain here? All right.
I think I'm against the grain, am I? I am not. Okay.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right.
What a bush league.
Okay.
All right, against the grain. Here we go. It's hashtag not a.
Oh, look at that. That looks good.
Look at that. I should probably hold that up to the camera. This is not a cutting board, so let me hold that up to the camera and see. This is the episode. Look at that. This is the episode to watch online. If you're listening, please go to our YouTube channel and check this out. This is the first time I've ever shared a meal on here, and good conversations happen over a meal. Right?
The best conversations.
So Matt, I have shared a lot of good meals with you through the years, buddy. Like we have
All over the world, man.
all over the world.
We got some pictures to prove it.
I've seen one recently in the early days. You and I sharing a really awesome meal in Chicago because I don't even remember why we were up there. I think we were scouting the potential acquisition or something.
Yeah.
But we got stuck.
Oh gosh.
And you
yes.
went to war with United Airlines. Remember that?
We both did.
We did, but you took it for years. Okay. So Matt started this hashtag screwed by United because we had our tickets and everything was good. And everybody was canceling flights because of snow. But United was like, no, we got it. And they waited until 15 minutes after the flight was to take off to cancel our flight, which screwed us completely because we had spent 24 hours thinking we had a flight. And then we were stuck because there were no flights out of there for like 4 days.
Yep.
And so we were like, we're not going to sit here in Chicago for 4 days.
Well, they canceled 2 of our flights.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Remember the pilot didn't show up for one?
Yeah, that's right.
And then they canceled the second one. And then
so it was just
like,
I mean, every other airline was canceling all their flights. So I wasn't mad at them. I hate when people blow up at an airline over weather. Like that's not their fault. But you could clearly see that United just didn't have their shit together.
They didn't.
Right. They just weren't. And so if you work at United, I don't apologize, right?
Pilot didn't show up the first time.
They didn't show up. And then they didn't have a crew or something.
For the second time or something like that.
And it was like, you should have known that you wouldn't have a crew with a proper rest.
So, hey, come on. You're killing me over here. We got to.
Let's get it. What's the word? So usually you say, let's go barehanded.
That's right.
Usually you say cheers with meat. What do you say with meat, right?
I don't know, man.
Salute or something? Let's just say that. Salute.
Oh, yeah.
How we do? That's pretty rare.
That was great. I love it like that.
It was really good. So I hit it with like some brisket seasoning on the outside.
That's good.
I'm so jealous.
So Alex, who is on vacation producing this, he's in Turkey, but they don't have smoked picanha where he is, baby.
That's solid, man.
Talk amongst yourselves.
That's
Okay.
Good. Okay.
So
I can't let that go to waste, man. I was like,
it was really
it was like sitting there calling my name.
So, now that you're doing the Techstars thing and you've been through the story yourself. And those of you that don't, I mean, if you don't know our background, you don't know the ProctorU story, it's in other episodes.
Tell it one day.
We'll tell it. Yeah.
It's a multi-part episode.
It's a long thing. Suffice to say, literally, shout out to Drake, started from the bottom, like just a couple of dudes from blue collar Pensacola,
That's right,
Florida, in the woods, right?
That's right.
That figured out how to build a tech company. And what now that you're working with other startups, how do you know whether you never know if you have a winner until you kind of get into it, right?
Sure.
But like, what traits do you look for that tell you whether or not somebody has a chance?
Oh man. So grit first and foremost, man. Are these people, is this person, is this group, is this team going to stick it through the end? Are they going to cut and run the first time that they hit a snag, a road bump, a little bump in the road? Or are they going to figure it the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
They're going to figure it out. So it's all about, like, at this stage, early stage, it's not even about the company or the idea. It's really about the founder. It is all about the founder.
It's about execution most of the time, like through the process. I think people get overly, at least my perspective, people get overly hung up on the idea.
Yeah.
And they get, they watch so many episodes of Shark Tank and they think that, like, man, if I just come up with this idea and if I just had this good little presentation or whatever, and it's like to the moon, right? And
how many ideas did we run at before we like ProctorU? And ProctorU wasn't even the thing.
It
wasn't even the thing.
Like, that's too difficult to even explain. But like, it's the example I give. This will resonate with you. The example I give all the time when people start talking about, they get too focused on the idea, is look at two examples here. So Matt and I came up with an online proctoring company where we would watch people take tests over a webcam. Now, today, if you've been in college, that doesn't sound so crazy, but I'm telling you, in 2008, that was a what?
Instructors are like,
first of all,
you want to do what?
yeah. Well, and first of all, there wasn't a webcam in every computer. There
No.
just wasn't. And so it wasn't, we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have everything else. Really dating ourselves here, but like you didn't, it sounded like a crazy idea. Now it sounds like a good idea. The other example, what was the other company that we started? We tried to start
City.
Well, there's that one. That's a whole nother. But I'm talking about, like, remember Realtor Clicks?
Oh gosh, yes.
So we started what was essentially going to be
Zillow, Redfin,
yeah.
Trulia.
And so and this was before exactly.
Yeah.
So that is objectively a great idea, right? But we were not positioned to execute on it. We didn't have the experience. We didn't have the backing. We didn't have we didn't have nothing. So we built this thing, fired it out into the world, and it went nowhere. And that's like, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar idea. Somebody else did a great job. It was execution. And we go to the other thing, which sounds like a much more niche-y whatever, and we did a great job on that one, right? Yeah. And it's really, it just comes down to timing and market fit and execution. And market fit is a part of execution. Figuring out, you keep referencing Pupil City. Pupil City was this social media network that we were going to build where students could study together on universal, like on common subjects from school to school. And I say it out loud, it sounds kind of silly, right? But and then like this byproduct of that was like, and it's going to have this thing where we could proctor people.
Well, we were trying to create some end-to-end experience, right?
Right. Yeah.
You could like get your textbooks, you could get all your materials in conjunction with your LMS, your learning management system. You can interact with your fellow test takers, study, and then when you're ready to take the test, we had a way to do that. So we were trying to figure out this experience from that side,
Yeah, and it didn't.
It didn't. But it's weird about that too, and just like how ideas spin out.
Turn the grill off. I just realized I got the smoker still on.
You think about how ProctorU was a feature of that, right?
Right.
And other things that we've done inside of ProctorU have been a feature that we've been able to commercialize, and that's one of the things I talk to people about too when it comes to these ideas. It's like, don't be afraid to take a look at the processes that you use, and those can be as important, if not more important, like later on down the road. But going back to what you're talking about, things I look for, grit. You talked about execution. 100% agree on that. So one of the things that I give to all the founders is when I'm kind of courting them, like in this sourcing process, is I give them homework. I'm like, all right, I've got this awesome partnership through Alabama Power Southern Company. We want to be able to get you a pilot, a customer, something out of that process. What does that look like? Put it together for me. Make it real. And then I can go to them and say, like, is this something that we can even do? And then we can craft that over the course of the 13 weeks. And then by the end of the 13 weeks, you might have a multi-million-dollar, large-scale utility company as a customer.
Yeah.
Maybe even a first customer.
I mean, yeah, what a boost that is, right? But sometimes I think, you have to listen, right? As a startup, you have to sort of listen to market feedback.
Yep.
And that takes skill in and of itself too. So I'll give an example from our background that I learned a ton from. So if you look at the online proctoring landscape today and the way people take tests in education, there's like a couple of different methods, right? There is, the live proctoring where you've got a person there in real time and they're watching you take the test and they can intervene and everything else. And then there's this other method where it's what we call record and review. So it's being recorded, somebody watches it later and you react to it and everything. There's all sorts of like little things you can talk about in that process. But I remember when there was a couple of startups in our industry. So we had been in business for a long time. I say a long time. We had been in business. This is probably 2014, 2013. So we've been in business probably 5 years, right? And we were the online proctoring, live proctoring people. We had people and they connected to you and everything else. And so we had some companies in our space that started doing this record and review thing. And so we convened a bunch of our customers together in an event, and we bought dinner, and we started peppering them with a bunch of questions. And we said,
I know where you're going.
Where I'm going with this. We started saying, what do you guys think about this method? What do you guys? So, would you buy if we came out with a record and review thing? Would you guys buy it? And they all universally said, no way,
No.
right? No way. And so we
Yeah.
thought, this is a fad. It's going to go
Yeah.
away. The problem was that the error that we made was that we had convened a group of people that had bought wholesale into our method. And we had just asked them, hey, would you like us to blow everything up that you're doing and start? And they were like, hell no, right? I don't want you to do that. And so we took that as, oh, well, nobody wants this, right? Well, no, you convened a group of people with a bias, and that was 14, right? 2013, 2014.
That was a hard customer validation question, like process that we learned, we wouldn't make that mistake again. But
I'm giving you some more meat, by the way.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I mean,
it was a huge mistake. And what it did, and eventually ProctorU Measure Learning comes out with its own version of that service. And it took us a couple of years to realize, we we got that wrong.
Yeah.
Those guys, and ironically, most of them all came around to wanting to do that for various reasons. And it was just, so when you the point of that story is when you talk about market feedback, you really have to consider the people that you're asking and why they would answer something. And it's like the old Henry Ford. I almost said Henry Fonda. The old Henry Ford thing. If you'd have asked people when he started Ford Motor Company what they wanted, they would have just said a faster horse,
right?
Not a car,
right?
And so that is something that you have to think. But that leads people astray too, because there's that, I call it like the Steve Jobs syndrome, right?
They don't know what they want.
They don't know what they want, but you get people that think, I'm Steve Jobs. I know what people want, and they don't know what they want.
Right.
And that's not always the case, right?
Well, I think you're kind of alluding to this thing that I see that too, is that there really is no formula on your product or product placement. No. And in terms, because you're asking about, success or whatever, or a little earlier on. Yeah. And what to look for and what you think. I mean, like I said, early in this stage of the game, it's about the founders. Like you said, can they execute? Are they people of their words? Like, can they,
are they smart enough to realize that they've got it wrong, and they can set their ego aside and
that's
pivot?
Right. And can they learn
and pivot?
Right.
Yeah. Or adapt, or
that's right.
or adapt to feedback, or
that's right. Can they learn? Can they accept feedback and grow? Right. Those three, I would say, that we've kind of distilled down are the three most critical.
Yeah. The thing that I think sinks more people is this this view that they have to be right rather than get to the right answer.
Yeah.
And so the difference there is, I have a team of people and they're all throwing ideas at me at a problem. Do I have a bias to make sure that what I say is correct? Or do I listen to what everyone's saying and then just walk through each suggestion until we figure out the thing that works best?
Right.
And I can think of multiple examples of this, but I remember one in particular. We had a guy who I won't name in our organization, and he was a leader in our organization, and he had decided that the way that we should figure out whether we're profitable as a proctoring organization is whether our proctors can start 2.75 exams per hour.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it was just, and I remember asking the question, 2.75, does that, are we accounting in that number people in customer service? And he'd go, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know?
Yeah.
But he had said 2.75 so loud and so in front of so many people that he had stamped his name on that number. And so I remember we went on for months and we're using that metric and it just wasn't working. It was clearly was we kept bumping up against, that's not the number, man. And holy cow, who cares what the number is? Let's just find it out.
But we tried to do all these ancillary things to make the number right.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. So, so I remember,
sorry to steal your thunder on that.
We got to a particular meeting where Steve, my brother, Steve Morgan, who's been on the show before, who is still Measure Learning's global VP of operations and knows that better than probably anybody in the world. he comes out and definitively, without a doubt, proves that the number that we need to be shooting for is definitely something else. 2.7, like we need to be shooting for this number, and we will hit all of our quality metrics, and we'll hit all of our profitability metrics, and everything. We have a sustainable business. And I remember that leader, the other leader, that had said 2.75 kind of goes, yeah, okay. And so we leave that meeting, and we're all kind of like whispering in the hall. We're like, I guess we did it. I guess we finally proved it. And then the next day, we get an email from that guy telling everyone that I slept on it, and basically he had spent the entire night cooking up a way that 2.75 was still the number based on what he was saying. If you actually think about how much energy the organization wasted just trying to preserve that dude's ego, right?
Yep.
And I guess that's the point of that story is there are a lot of organizations that waste a lot of time on ego.
That's right.
And not actually getting to the right answer and trying to solve a problem.
Agreed.
Amen.
Well,
no, I'm kidding. We could have wrapped the episode on that one.
No, and that's one of those things that you just, when I'm looking at companies and founders, I keep that person in mind.
Yeah. And
I try to avoid, picking those that exhibit those particular traits for sure.
How do you find them though? What do you look for to see if someone is like a narcissist or somebody that's going to go down?
You go into their past experiences, talk about, tell me stories about, where you failed, where you've grown, what you've done, what are you doing thus far? And then maybe you throw like, me, I'm very technical. So I can deep dive into like a little corner or pocket and something and like poke it a little bit. And so I'll do that and I'll see what they say, Are they open to that? Are they like totally like, oh, that doesn't make any sense? Or like, and see what they come back at. That's really tender.
This is actually really good. It's just turned out pretty good. So, like I said,
focus of the podcast, and
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn it so you can kind of see how rare it is on the camera. I'm going to cut this little end piece right here, and I know it's going to be a little tougher than everything else, but it's got all the spices.
It should have like a good and it has a little bit of the outside exterior to it.
I used it's hashtag not a sponsor, but I'm going to call him out by name because I love him and I want him to come on the show. I used Malcolm Young's seasoning for brisket on this, and it turned out so good. It's so simple. There's like it's just like salty with a little bit of pepper.
What kind of smoke did you use on this, by the way?
So that's a pecan pellet, right?
Okay.
I know people give me a bunch of crap about pellet grill this, pellet grill that. Yeah. Get out of here.
You got a family. You want the food to come out.
Right? And I don't have time. So we talk about how busy. Dude, I don't have time. I got total respect for people that do like.
Dude, I did a 24-hour ceramic cook because you know what? My father-in-law is like a big-time barbecue guy. So Larry, props
shout
to
out
you,
Larry.
Man. But he came over one time, so I wanted to like, all right, I'm sure that I can barbecue too, right? we did a pulled pork, and that thing's hit the stall. Like I did not want to Texas crutch it or like turbo it. I just 212.5, just let it roll. And man, it was like 24 hours later.
Oh no.
But I mean, we ended up having to get pizza that night. We had like, pulled pork the next day.
So, I mean, you said it right there, 12 hours, 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
For a ceramic grill. And that's the difference in what
that was the longest I ever had to do.
Like what drives me towards a pellet grill is that I can,
like
dial it in. It's like an oven. I hate to say that because it sounds like it cheapens it a little bit. I mean, you're still hitting.
No, you still get good quality.
Oh, you get great quality.
Yeah.
And I was a late adopter on that too. Like I was the guy that was like, oh no, you can't do that. Like, no way.
And as a tech person too, you picked the right one.
Yeah. Like don't say their name.
I'm not going to say their name.
Don't say their name because I haven't been able to get their founder to come on the show yet.
Okay.
And so I'm publicly shaming him without naming him for not coming on the show.
But you got the right kind because
Ray Carnes, get on my show.
That is the right kind.
That's a big chunk of meat right there.
Good.
Come on, baby. So what is what's next for Techstars? Like you've got a couple of good companies in there, I think, right?
Yeah.
And
So
you got anybody you're really high on? Anybody you think's got a chance?
oh yeah, I've got right now I've got like I'm supposed to have top 24, and then I narrow it down to 12 with a selection committee.
Yeah.
But I've got like 30 really really promising people, so I'm trying to like work through the 30 to maybe I edge this one out, and but it's tough, man. The quality of applicants that comes through Techstars, and you hear a lot of these challenges from other venture capitalists about sourcing. Man, it's because it's part of the brand. Like Techstars is just so big, like everybody just goes to Techstars.
And these people are coming in from not from
Everywhere.
Alabama, like from all over, right?
All everywhere. And
I'm getting
so,
us some more whiskey, by the way. Power of the conversation. So,
so Techstars gets applicants from all over the world. But just talking about Techstars growth, so we make over 500 investments annually, and
whoa.
we're some years we're pushing 1,000. We're the most active. We're the largest. Like I said, the largest. We just beat out our closest competitor, which is Y Combinator.
I was about to ask how
Yeah.
this ranked to Y.
So,
Is
yeah,
Y Combinator still a thing?
Oh yeah,
Because all I ever hear is Techstars.
it's
anymore.
neck and neck. It's neck and neck.
Interesting.
So the difference between, like, if you talk about products and positioning, the key differentiator, Y Combinator believes that you have to go back to the Mecca, Silicon Valley, in order to be successful.
Screw that.
But Techstars,
I can go ahead and go on record and go screw that.
And you can see, right? So Techstars believes that you can create a Silicon Valley in any community.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about community ecosystem and being able to do this. And so that's why we're growing so fast.
Can I go in on Silicon Valley for a minute?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Do it.
Listen, I may burn some bridges with this one. Look, Silicon Valley is no doubt the mecca of tech startups. It is where the greatest tech startups of all time have come from.
Yep.
And every great tech startup has some level of connectivity, some connective tissue back to even ours, right? For sure. But I think that Silicon Valley is La La Land, right? And there's at times, maybe not right now, but at times there is so much money that's flowing through that ecosystem that you see people invest in the dumbest shit. I see people that it's just a half-baked idea, and here comes $15 million. $15 million is a rounding error out there, right? $15 million in any other ecosystem, and most other ecosystems, is a material amount of money, and you should be able to grow fantastic. But Silicon Valley and most of those startups, you feel like you have to go
swing for the fences.
Everything's
a unicorn.
Everything's a unicorn. So either you're $1 billion or you're nothing.
Yeah.
And that is such a irresponsible way to teach people to build a business, because you get a guy who got great respect for, Kevin Systrom, is the name of the guy that started Instagram. And Instagram went from launch of I'm going to take pictures and this is what I'm having for lunch and whatever.
Yep.
Right. And they go from launch to sale to Facebook in 18 months.
It's awesome.
$1 billion sale to Facebook in 18 months. It's awesome. It's also like getting struck by lightning 5 times in a row.
Right.
While you're holding a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trying to aim for that as your business is going to send you down the wrong path. Anytime I talk to somebody who is starting a startup outside of Silicon Valley and they're trying to create something that doesn't have a revenue model yet, and we'll just build size and we'll get good luck. It doesn't work that way anywhere but La La Land, right? You better start with a business model and a revenue model in mind ahead of time, or you're not going to get there. And I love Silicon Valley. I love it. Best cold brew coffee in the world out there, right? It's just it's a great ecosystem, some of the brightest minds in the world. But I think if you're outside of that ecosystem, you got to build a real business with real customers and a real ROI, or you're not going to make it.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those types of, I think that's simmering down a little bit, because enough people have seen the Theranoses and all that stuff.
Well, let's name it. Like WeWork.
Yeah, WeWork.
Theranos. What was the There was a guy that started a buy it now button that for things off of Amazon.
I don't remember that one.
Oh God, I
Really?
wish if you're out there and you remember the name of that one, send it in. That guy, he sponsored a NASCAR, and he
Oh
had all these
wow.
things, and they just, you know, you just
Imploded.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just read the same, Shakespearean fallacy.
They just buy into the hype, right? Like
Yeah,
if
they're
you're if
spending money on parties, and I got to have goats at
right,
every meeting and all sorts of whatever fairy fart crap they're trying to do. And what it ends up doing is they spend more time trying to be cool and trying to look like what they saw in movies,
that's right.
about Silicon Valley companies, and not actually listen to their customers and trying to build a winner.
Right. Well, I mean, that's you're talking about too, like that whole mindset kind of shifted into crypto and is what has hurt it so
Oh
much.
yeah.
You know, then now everybody's like crypto. Oh yeah, I don't want to touch that, right? But I mean, there's still great use cases
Oh,
for blockchain
the truth
and
is somewhere in the
crypto.
middle,
It
man.
is.
So
It is.
Dogecoin and all these dumb, I'm using, whatever,
Yeah.
Leaf coin or
But
what.
what sucks because that whole scam type, use of the immediate return on a great technology has now stunted the growth of it. So Web
Well,
three is now bloop. It's like, oh, what's on hold? Web three, we don't care that much about it
well,
anymore.
but if you look at the history of the internet,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So what happens? You get early adopters. So just go back to the late 90s. Okay, so what do we have? We have people building websites. We have, pets.com.
Yeah,
We have all these things where you're going to go online and you're going to buy things on. You're going to buy Webvan. Remember that?
yeah,
Webvan in the late 90s. Groceries online. Okay.
yeah.
Like, it was a good idea way before its
It's
time.
true.
The internet infrastructure wasn't there.
It's
People's
true.
buying habits weren't ready, and it imploded. And so you have this cyclical nature of new ideas and technology where you get the early adopters, then you get the hysteria where everyone goes nuts about it, and everything that has a .com on the end of it is going to be a winner.
That's right.
And then you have the .bomb
That's right.
implosion, and then everything with a .com on it, everyone thinks is a loser, and oh, that's fine. And the truth was, now the real winners, the real ones with real staying power, end up right. So Amazon was a part of that
That's
way
right.
back in the day.
Yep.
Everything else collapses around it. Amazon comes out of the rubble, is an actual winner, right?
Yeah.
And in the Web 2.0, you had a million social media things,
Right.
Social networks. We're gonna have a social network for dog walkers, and I'm gonna have a social network
Right.
for book readers, and then eventually they all implode. And then what comes out as the winner? Ones with real staying power, real value props, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. Like, they have a real reason for existing, not because they were some gimmick, right? But because they had a real differentiator.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen with crypto, right?
Yeah.
You had 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
And you had a bunch of
There's going to
charlatans.
be a couple ones
there's going to be a couple
pop up.
ones that are that in 5 or 6 years, you're going to look back and go, oh, that one actually did have some staying power.
You know what's interesting though is that moving on to the next big thing in tech, this is the first time I've seen big tech actually scared of technology. I'm talking about generative AI.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Like Google's, the friggin' Facebook's, like Meta's, they're all afraid of it because they don't know how to capitalize on it.
Well, it's such a X factor.
It is.
That you can leapfrog everybody, dude. So we have the Tough Dog garage floor paint company that we're doing, right? And Tough Dog's been growing, doing some good things, and so we needed to send out an email. We hit a partnership with a home builder here, and they wanted to send out an email to all their people that have been asking for a garage floor thing. And so they email me and they go, "Hey, I need you to put an email together." And I was like, just writer's block. It was late in the week, and I was so it just dawned on me. I went to ChatGPT.
That's right.
And I spent 5 minutes describing the company and the product and the people we were sending the email to, and hit enter. And 10 seconds later, I had a perfectly crafted email that needed 5% modification from me, and it was ready to go.
I know.
And that is wild. And if you're out there listening and you haven't played with ChatGPT, it's free. It's free. I don't know why it's free, but it's free. And it is, when you start playing around with that, by the way, I asked it to write a rap song in the style of Kanye West about our company, ProctorU, and it nailed it. I didn't tell it all about what ProctorU was, and it was sitting there like dropping rhymes, like, I got my camera panning and people trying to stand, like
Yeah.
it was nuts. And
Yeah.
the ability for it to do literally anything in a 80%, acceptable way is what really is making that like a revolutionary thing.
It is. It is. And like I said, but it is one of the only technologies that I've seen thus far where the big players are just absolutely scared of it.
Do you think that the fear that the average layperson is that we're going to have like Skynet? Do you think that's a real fear? Is that shit?
That's
Is
a
that
ha-ha
silly?
joke, but I mean, the problems that the tech is having with it is like they don't know how to monetize it.
Yeah.
Because think about it, right? If I could go to a chat GPT and say, hey, tell me what the best restaurant is in Birmingham, and it tells me something, is it going to go, well, these customers kind of paid for me to say like that this one, this place, and this
Yeah.
place, or like,
No.
no, they can't do that.
Well, and that's why Google's afraid of it because if you're trying to find the best restaurant in Birmingham, you would go to Google and search top 10 restaurants in Birmingham
That's
and
right.
go. But if you go further upstream
That's
of what you're
right.
trying to accomplish, and you go to an AI bot, ChatGPT, and go, "What's the best restaurant in Birmingham?" and it spits it out in 1 second. You skip Google.
That's right.
And so then you skip Google
Ads,
AdWords,
yes.
and you skip
everything.
you skip everything.
Yes.
Right. The whole internet ecosystem.
That's how they make their money.
Right. The whole internet ecosystem has been set up in that way.
It's
And
ad generated, ad revenue. I mean,
so who knows? I don't. No one has the answer to that yet.
no. That's why they're so scared of it. That's why they keep on going. Like these doomsday. Well, I don't know about this emergent AI or the generative AI. It's so scary.
What's generative AI?
Generative AI is
I just keep nodding.
Is
like
the
I know
Chat
what it is.
GPT like basically you give it some seed information and it creates something semi-creative like on its own.
Does
like
that
for example, like the
learn
music
as it
industry
goes?
has caught wind because it made that Drake song that everybody thought was like
Okay.
awesome, right?
How is that done? What engine is doing that? Because if you don't know, like so on TikTok, there was somebody created a song via AI that they programmed it and and they made it. They used AI to make it sound like Drake was doing this song.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a Drake. But not only did it sound like a Drake song, it sounded like a badass Drake song.
Yeah.
And Drake should take it and make it a single, right? Yeah. And I've also heard people taking, old school rap songs and having Notorious B.I.G. do that, and
That's right.
how do you? So what engine is doing that?
So I haven't looked into the specific engines that do that, but what they're doing is they're training voice data sets based off of all of these artists like songs, right? They just take the vocal tracks and they train an AI model. And based off of that training, because like when you're singing or you're speaking, those ways that you form vowels and consonants and how you say all that stuff, it like there's a way that you do it. And the models pick up on that and can recreate anything you say based off of that training set. So that's what they did with Drake. They sampled all of his material, and then
you said a voice data set, right?
Yeah, voice data.
So what does that mean exactly?
So they took his vocal tracks, or like him talking, or that's what they do with like Trump and Biden and all this stuff when they're doing like deep fake voices and stuff like that. They take all of the audio and they sample it, they distill it down, and then they train an AI model data set off of those audio samples, and then they can use that AI data set to basically type into basically an interface to say, hi, my name is whatever, or and it sounds just like it.
So
and they do the same thing with video.
It is a nightmare scenario for so many tech industry giants and just the internet has always been a haven of people pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And that was always you could always get to, like, we built ProctorU, like I get you on the camera and I have you talk and I see you and you answer questions and things, like I can figure out who you are. AI starts making that hard, not just for everybody,
right,
to figure that stuff out. And
so think about this. I want you to think about this. So the killer blockchain cryptographic like usage for blockchain would be to authenticate content.
Oh man.
Think about that. So if this podcast that came out, this podcast comes out, it's cryptographically signed and on the blockchain that Jarrod Morgan and Slow Smoke Business Podcast put it out. It's not fake. That is the killer like usage of this.
Wow.
That's how this intersection of AI and
if you're out there
and
listening to
blockchain
this
is
and
gonna-
you
is
program that, we want 1%.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
But that is
That is
that's
a
killer
world
use.
changer of an idea.
That is.
And only blockchain could really accomplish
right.
that in a meaningful way.
That's right. That's the way that you authenticate you maintain authenticity of a source.
Yep. I mean, dude, I could go for hours with Matt Jaeh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the whiskey here. We're going to get a quick little fresh pour.
All right.
Matt, I'm proud of you, man. What you're doing with Techstars. I saw
man.
you from the early days, watching you go from a smart guy with a lot of potential to a smart guy who's done a lot of great things. And I'm just so proud to call you a friend and a colleague. And so we're going to start a new tradition in the in-person one. So let's take one last bite of the meat.
Right.
You ready?
Right. Yeah.
You got a big hunk there, dude. I don't know how
Okay.
the hell you're going to do that. All right, one last bite of the meat. Damn, that's good.
Oh,
It's a little cold, but it's good.
Feel good.
And clink the glasses. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate all you're doing for the entrepreneurship community. And
Likewise, man.
appreciate the friendship. Thanks, Matt.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Man, I love whiskey too, by the way.
It's good.
Putting it out there. So thank you guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us some feedback. This is our first in-person episode ever. Matt, where can they find you? Techstars, Alabama, where can they look you guys up?
They can look me up. They can go to Techstars website, find Techstars Alabama Energy Tech Accelerator. You can find me personally. You can find me personally, mattjaeh.com.
Yeah, J-Dog on most social media.
J-Dog, that's right.
Jaeh.
DAWG,
DAWG.
baby. That's right. J-Dog.
Been his screen name since he was
Forever.
like garage bands in college,
Yeah,
right?
AIM screen name.
You look him up on AIM and send him
Nobody knows
no
who's
one knows
watching
what
this,
AIM
but that
is.
is.
God,
that's
you
funny.
date yourself when you say that.
Yeah.
Guys, so thrilled to have Matt here. Thank you for your support on Slow Smoke. We just had our biggest month ever on all of our platforms. I just want to thank you guys for all the support. If you like this podcast, please go like us, subscribe, go find us on TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe, like, give us 5 stars, whatever the platform's asking for. And we'll see you next time on Slow Smoke Business.